Put your head on my shoulder.
All right, so welcome back to the QC. I'm joined as usual by the QC Super Friends.
Super Friend number 1, Jordan.
Super Friend number 2, Jared.
Yeah, welcome to Quality Control episode number 10. Going to be giving you our reaction and kind of our ending explained to WandaVision Season 1. If there is going to be a Season 2, we don't know that. But guys, tell me your what you thought about WandaVision.
So, WandaVision. As I was watching that finale, for me, it was like I was really hoping and waiting for like the big, huge, like a huge reveal. Something, honestly, I wanted to see like an X-Men of some kind, another X-Men. Someone from the X-Men was my like anticipation. I don't know why, because I was talking to some people about how Elizabeth Olsen was saying how there's supposed to be some big, huge, like WTF reveal in the show, and I think it was Evan Peters. Now, in hindsight, but I was hoping it would be something at the end. I'm like, oh, maybe in the cabin, maybe in the back. That's Magneto, because that was the last one. I'm like, maybe that's Magneto or somebody who she's taking care of. I'm like, okay, no, it's not anybody. And then when Rambo goes into the theater, and then the other lady turns into the Skrull, I'm like, okay, let's see, maybe it ties into something else. I'm like, okay, it's another cliffhanger. So I'm like, where's the reveal? Where is it? I never got it, so I was kind of disappointed. That was the thing. That's the thing that left me. Well, I'll talk more about how I felt about the episode, but I think that's initial impressions. I'll let Jared and you give yours too.
Sure.
Yeah, it's funny because you're watching a show that didn't really feel like a superhero show for so much of it. It definitely felt like a superhero show in that final episode.
For sure.
The way it went down. It was unexpected. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't what thought was going to happen. So I guess maybe missing those expectations kind of made it somewhat of a letdown for me. And I also thought that we were going to have something else. You know, I was reading about Paul Bettany saying he got to work with some actor he had never worked with before. There was speculation. It was like, it could have been maybe it's another X-Man. It could have been like Dick Van Dyke because he's still alive and he was a consultant on the show, for instance. So people were saying all sorts of stuff. But yeah, those end credit scenes, clearly the Skrull one is Secret Invasion, which we know is happening with Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn later. And then I expect her reading the Darkhold book in the back has to do with Multiverse of Madness.
Sure.
And Wanda not being fully out of her mental woods. But
Sure.
Overall, phenomenal show. I just feel like it didn't peak at the end, in my opinion.
Gotcha. No, I get everything you guys are saying. I think when it comes to my predictions, I thought they were going to bring in Doctor Strange just because, you know, she's going to be in his movie. So I thought they just have like a stinger at the end with him showing up and just doing some mojo or whatever. And they didn't do that. That was surprising. A lot of people were talking about Mephisto and, you know, kicking around theories about him. And my thing is, this is a Disney property, and like Mephisto is the manifestation of the devil in Disney. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like a little bit of a stretch for Disney to have a character on screen who's literally the devil. Like, how would they do that in a way that still feels on brand for Disney? You know what I mean? So I was looking to see if they would take that risk and what they would do, but they clearly didn't in this, at least not with the show. So the question is, will Mephisto show up in the movie? Because in the comic books, the two kids are, you know, pieces of Mephisto's soul or something like that. Really? So that's the storyline. So
they're coming back, obviously. Like
right.
Tommy are coming back. Like the fact that, especially when that line Elizabeth Olsen says right before, when she tucks him in and says like, "Thank you for choosing me to be your mother."
Yeah.
Very specific language.
Yeah.
As she continues to get better at her chaos magic, and we know there's a multiverse, maybe the kids, you know, being Wiccan and Speed in the comics, had some say, for instance, in how they showed up here because they're coming from another multiverse or another Earth, other than 717, for instance.
Sure.
And so, like, I'm sure, like, that's we'll see that within the next year. I think multiverse brings them over. Like, they're coming back, obviously.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think they are coming back. So we talked a lot about, you know, the fan theories and our own theories and like how we were kind of let down by that. But I think overall the show my opinion of it and review of it is it's great. And I'll give it a great review.
Absolutely.
I really do like the fact that, you know, they're taking basically the emotion of grief, and that is a theme, and kind of extrapolating that over the entire show. And that's really I feel the heart of the show is Wanda. And, you know, if you had the ability to bring back your loved ones, you know, would you do that? And would you take that power and use it? And, you know, they're really setting it up where, you know, Wanda is the villain of the story. I mean, I know she's still Wanda, and, you know, she has, you know, high character and all that kind of thing, but the fact that she was, you know, basically kidnapped all these people and were holding them hostage, and, you know, for basically the entirety of the show, you know, she is the villain. So I think it's just a really fascinating kind of portrait of, you know, someone experiencing grief, and, you know, and they have this amazing power to warp the fabric of reality, and using that to in a way that, you know, to Wanda, she's just trying to bring back Vision, but, you know, her powers have manifested themselves in this way that is causing a lot of damage. So I think that's really interesting. And, you know, I talk about this a lot, and I feel with comic book properties, you have to try new things, try to do different things to keep us invested and interested, because we'll get to a point where we'll get tired of these comic book properties or comic book movies in general, if they don't do things like this. And I feel like DC is doing that, you know, Marvel is doing that more so than DC. So, you know, what do you guys think about that?
I think I have
a quick question for you. I have a quick question for you, Swanka, before we respond to that question. Since you're talking about how, Wanda was definitely more of the antagonist in the show, I surmise that moving forward, I think that the Scarlet Witch will continue to have a role as an antagonist in future properties. Maybe not entirely. I was talking to Jared. Jared's like, no, they're not going to make her the bad guy again. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jared, but I wanted to get your thoughts, Wonka. Do you think, because especially with that ending shot of her reading the book with the chaos magic, I was getting vibes like, okay, she's definitely, it might not be that she is intentionally doing things with malice, but I think that her power could manifest in ways that she doesn't see coming, or she could lose control and she could still end up being, you know, the de facto villain. Do you think that's going to happen like in the Multiverse of Madness or moving forward?
Yeah, so I think that Scarlet Witch is definitely going to be the big bad of Multiverse of Madness, but I feel like they're going to introduce somebody that's above her, because at some point she's got to be redeemed. Like, she's not going to be the villain. They're not going to defeat her. They're going to redeem her, so to speak, right? So when they redeem her now, okay, so who's the villain above Scarlet Witch that we now have to defeat? You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that they are going to have her as a villain, but, you know, they're going to have somebody else that you know, once she kind of comes back into the fold, you know, we now have to defeat this other bigger bad. That's my prediction, but, you know, we'll see.
Yeah, gotcha.
That was my main point when I was making that. But one thing I want to say with the grief exploration, which you mentioned, just because I had a little bit of a light bulb moment, Marvel's been doing that honestly since Infinity War, because they've been talking a lot about the consequences and how, like, death is forever. For instance, us losing Black Widow, Iron Man, and Captain America, for instance, over Infinity War and Endgame. And then even with Far From Home, exploring, okay, what is it like for Peter Parker to be Spider-Man without Tony, without surrogate dad, for instance there? What is it like for Wanda to exist without Vision, or having, like, her found family and, like, her core unit? So it's kind of something that it seems like will be possibly a recurring theme as we work throughout Phase 4, this dealing with actual consequences, and that being a superhero isn't always beating the bad guy and living and just having fun, essentially doing it. So, which is what Marvel's built the first 3 phases doing. So again, it's them keeping us on our toes. Sure, there's humor in this, but, like, they're also finding ways to add drama and tragedy to it too, which is what makes a good story.
Correct. And now we can move on to recovery, hopefully. Phase 4 marks recovery. Maybe that's the recovery phase.
Right.
Potentially.
So one thing I wanted to point out, which I think is interesting as we kind of move into Falcon and Winter Soldier and other MCU TV shows, is Kevin Feige said on it's either a press release or it was a investor call, where he basically said that the Disney shows, the Marvel Disney shows, they can't really change or do too much in them, where if you are someone that watches the movies, you won't be able to understand the movies because of what's happening in the show. So in other words, they're only able to do things that are interesting for the characters, and obviously the show was great. I love WandaVision. I hope we get a season 2, but they can't have the stories be so complex within the shows that someone who watches only the movies won't understand the movies.
Right.
That's
they don't want to
interesting
alienate the movie audience.
Right. So when you keep that in mind, it actually makes sense that they didn't really do too much in the show that would, if you didn't see the show, you'd be totally lost when Doctor Strange comes out. So you keep that in mind, it actually will kind of temper your expectations as far as the big reveals that we're going to get if they keep to that kind of that sense. Yeah. So
they're more self-contained, a little more self-contained.
Right.
Than I guess we'd want, but that's fine. I have faith in them. So
business is always going to affect story at some point. So get it. It's still trying. They're still trying to make their $1 billion plus every time a movie comes out. So if people feel like they're lost the next time a movie comes out because they didn't put in 9 episodes worth or however much 7 hours of content here on WandaVision, I get it. It's fine. Like, I don't love it because I'm the guy that's going to watch everything, but
exactly.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, we're going to watch everything. What did you guys think of White Vision?
I mean, where'd he go? Where is he now? Well, what's his thing?
He's probably going to appear in a future movie. I think that's. I mean, he's Vision now because that is Vision's body, and my understanding was that the Hex Vision gave White Vision his memories. So if you're an android and you have the memories of Vision, and you're the Vision body, I mean, he's Vision. You just
with no mind.
You know what I mean? So yeah,
with no mind stone. Yeah. So he can still shoot lasers.
But what did you think specifically of like the battle between the two Visions? The actual costume design? What do you guys think?
So I was thinking like production wise, I'm like it was pretty cool. Like I was telling Jared, like just like he said, we're Man of Steel, Zod versus Superman territory was what it felt like. Just flying superpower.
I thought the exact same thing.
And I'm like, what? But in the moment, I'm like, I'm okay with it. I'm okay. Because the entire show, we didn't really have any big action spectacle, and it'd been a while since I've seen it. I'm like, this is kind of cool. I like it. It played to like the littler kid in me, so I was cool with it. I still thought it was cool, even though I knew that the stakes. I'm like, Vision's not gonna die, most likely. Actually, I didn't know what was gonna happen with Vision, so I'm interested to see where they move with it because obviously Hex Vision's gone. White Vision. Also, I saw his name is Cataract. I saw something online talk about his name being Cataract. I'm not sure, but
Project Cataract, because basically what cataract causes you to have in real life causes you to have cloudy vision.
Right.
So it's a metaphor for vision basically, but now he's cloudy, white.
Yeah, white. So, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a good name. But yeah, so I'm interested to see where it goes, and I was fine with the fight for sure. I liked it.
I didn't like it right when it started because as I was watching it, I was like, how do these Visions fight each other? They just both shoot lasers. They both phase in between each other's punches. It's not going to go anywhere. And as soon as I had that thought, I was like, all right, well, they probably can't beat each other in a fight. So they're going to have to figure out some other way to end this. And as I'm having that thought is when they enter that library where Vision got gummed up and everything. And then it becomes a fight of like philosophy or mentally, which I was like, oh, this makes sense because Vision is both power from the Infinity Stone, but he's also, he was Jarvis, he was the supercomputer. So I like that it started physical, but the way he needed to win, Hex Vision needed to win, was by essentially giving him a thought experiment. One I was actually familiar with. So I thought it was actually cool the way that they showed that it transformed. Because if it had ended with just someone punching the other one to oblivion, I would have been upset. But I like the way they ended it.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, thank you guys for hanging in with us today and listening to us geek out about WandaVision. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Real Quick Critic and also Facebook, The Quick Critic. And also we're on YouTube. Also just search The Quick Critic. Make sure you keep up with us there and we will see you at the next one. Peace.
Falcon and Winter Soldier's coming.